Hey y'all, what's up? What's up? It's your girl Nick, and I'm in a good mood. My mood has improved tremendously since I came home from the office. Went to the office, got there, found out we couldn't drink any water, couldn't use the water, but then they're gonna send out an email saying, but you can still use the restroom. If we can't drink it, we don't need to be having it on our hands, sir, ma'am, everybody that's in charge. They should have sent us home immediately. We couldn't even go to the freaking bathroom today. I wasn't going in there. Not if we can't even drink the water. Like they went out and got bottled water for anybody who was at work today that didn't have any water, and I guess didn't have money to go down into the store and building and buy a bottle of water for drinking purposes. Just a mess. But anyway, we're back. I am here to bring you episode 3 of House of the Dragon. Alright, y'all. So, like I was saying before, we are here for House of the Dragon Season 1. Why did I go out of the view of the camera? That little wine cooler I just drank, is it really doing something to me? Because, what's going on? I'm all over the place right now. It was just a wine cooler, a strawberry daiquiri flavored wine cooler by I don't know. I don't know the name of the brand. I think it was Seagram's. But anyway, this episode is called Second of His Name. So we get to this episode, something that I didn't mention in the first video that featured a recap of episodes 1 and 2. I forgot to mention that at the end of episode number 2, we see when Damon is banished to wherever he's supposed to be going by his brother Viserys. He ends up taking a meeting with Corlys, and they decide that they're gonna come together and try to fight Prince. What's his name? Prince Dahar, the crab prince. He's on that little island. You know, they did like the pirate type thing and seized the ships that Corlys and some other people had coming from the north going where it was going, right? So they took the ship, they captured, they just stole everything off it, stole and captured the men, right? So they decided that against Viserys' advice and his command to not do anything about it just yet, they took it upon themselves that they was going to go and they was going to fight. And we also saw in that last episode that Rhaenyra, she had decided that she wanted Sir Criston Cole to go and fight because he actually been in combat before. So she didn't want the leader of their army that they had there. I forgot what his name is. It's a guy with a bald head, a shaved head. But she didn't want him because she said that he hadn't been in real combat. Criston Cole has been tried and tested and true in combat, so she wanted him to go in place. And it's crazy that she decided that she wanted him to go, but the father said that he didn't want to be a part of that, and that basically it looked like Corlys and Damon came together on their own and decided that they was going to go and fight this. So the episode begins with the Crab Prince nailing some man to a stake. And the man tells him the sea serpent is going to come. I don't know if he said sea serpent or sea snake. He said sea snake gonna come and they gonna get you and they're gonna come and they're gonna get all that stuff back and you're gonna die and all this everything. As the crab prince is nailing his hand to the cross. I mean to the stake. He nails him in. The guy says fuck you, fuck your whore of a mother, and fuck your bastard. I think he said bastard of a father. The Crab Prince has a helmet and a mask on. Looks like it's either leather or it's some kind of like steel something. You know, like they used to make back in the day. He looks like he has that disease that they always talked about in the Bible. And they would call the people the untouchables and nobody wanted to touch them and stuff, remember? I don't know why the name is escaping me right now because I know it. I'm familiar with it, but I can't think of what it's called, but y'all know what I'm talking about. It what he looks like what it looks like, because the mask covers like this part of his face like this, right? But the parts that you can see is so reddened and everything. It gives me the visual of what I think these people in the Bible had when they had the skin issue. What did they call them, y'all? Somebody put it in the comments, because I can't think of it. But y'all know what I'm talking about. It's all throughout the Bible that the people had this leprosy. There it is. It just came to me. I've been trying to figure it out for 2 freaking days now. Leprosy. When I read that in the Bible, when they taught that in Bible study or in vacation Bible school as a kid, when they talked about leprosy, that's what I envisioned. Red patches or light and dark patches all over your body or your skin, wherever you were affected. So, he looks like he has that. He puts crabs on top of the guy, so the crabs can like bite him and eat him up or whatever, and he walks off. Then we fast forward, we go to the castle. I guess it's King's Landing. I guess that's where they are. And we see Ato Hightower realize now that Ato is the hand of the king, which is the job that Daemon said he wanted to do for Viserys. You know, being his younger brother and everything, but Viserys chose Ato Hightower and then married Ato Hightower's daughter, Alicent. So we see them back at the castle, and they are actually having, they saying it's the second name day, so basically it's the babies. Alicent has had a baby has married and had a baby for Viserys. They fast forwarded for 2 years, so it's 2 years later since the last episode. They call it naming day, but to me, I'm guessing it's just like the second birthday. But they calling it naming day. So they having a party for the little boy. His name's Aegon. He's a cute little baby. And Ato is having a conversation with some man. And the man is telling Ato that with him having a son with Alicent, now this baby is set to be heir of the throne. And that basically Ato need to put a bug in Viserys' head to let him know that he needs to take the title heir to the throne from Rhaenyra so that he can give it to his firstborn son since he's had a little boy. Because you know back in them days, them men was adamant about them. They need to be the head person in charge. Okay? Otto was like, I don't think that he's ready to hear that, and I don't think that's what's on his mind these days. Like, he's not even thinking about that. And then the guy's like urging him, like, well, you need to talk to him about it. So Otto and Alicent is standing there with baby Aegon and everything, and they looking around, and Viserys is like, wait a minute, where's Rhaenyra? I haven't seen her. Where is she? So he looking around, he don't see her. Some guy comes up and approaches Viserys. It's like, we have an urgent matter at, I don't know if they didn't call it Sandstone. I think they called it Stepping Stone, which is the place where the Crab King is and has all the stuff that he stole off the ships, where they've been fighting this war against him to get the stuff back or whatever, to get control. He's like, it's urgent. You need to talk about it like now. He said, we've been going through this with them for at least 2 years. They can wait. It can wait another 3 days. Because he don't want to talk about that right now. So the guy's like, okay. So Viserys turns to Kristen Cole and was like, have you seen Rhaenyra? So Kristen is like, no, I haven't seen her either. She hasn't been around much. And he also lets Viserys know that what was going on with Daemon driving the cavalry or the men in the army. He's been driving them, pushing them really hard, and the men Damon is basically losing his control over the men. The men are tired and they're not really listening to Damon like that at this point. And they want Viserys to step in and do something. He's like, well, if I do something at this point, it's going to make the crown look weak because I didn't step in all this time and then all of a sudden I'm going to step in. It's going to make me appear to be weaker than what I am or something like that. So he doesn't want to do it. In the meantime, we go back to the stepping stones, the area, and we see the guy hollering for help that got that nailed to the stake, right? We see him hollering for help. And then we see, like, it's fire and it's dark out there. So we just see fire, people, crabs crawling and all that. We see the wind blow, and we see something flying towards us. It's one of them dragons. And that guy that's nailed to the stake, he notices the dragon. He's like, help me, help me. As he's saying that, the dragon, I'm sorry, y'all. The dragon actually lands, and when he lands and steps down, he steps right on the guy that's screaming out for help. So I'm guessing that guy dies at that moment instantly from being stepped on by the dragon. So we see somebody with a helmet on, and they yelling for the Crab Prince to come out of hiding, show himself, and be like a man, and come up to him and do what, let's fight or whatever. And we see the Crab Prince standing at the entryway to the cave, just looking. I'm guessing, that was Damon on that dragon. Damon, I don't think Damon saw the Crab Prince standing in the entryway to the cave. He walks as Damon shouts whatever he wants to shout at him. He listens for a second and then he turns and he walks off. And then that's when you see all these men standing around with these bow and arrows with fire. They still shooting the bow and arrows at the dragon's wings. And the dragon roars and like flap their wings a little bit. Then the bow and arrow hits Damon in the right shoulder. He tears it out, yanks it out, looks around one more time, and then him and the dragon take off. I had to rewind this part a couple of times because I wasn't sure if Damon fell off or he was still on, but he actually didn't fall off. He was still on the dragon. So we go back to the castle, and they're still talking, and Viserys is still like, where is Rhaenyra? We go to a scene where Rhaenyra is outside. She's under a tree. And she has a guy playing a musical instrument and singing while she's reading a book. The song he's singing is Under the Dragon's Eye, I believe. She tells him to start over from the top, sing it again. He said, I've been singing this song. She said, I don't care. I command you to sing that. Sing it over and over again. Meanwhile, here's Alicent approaching. So with this scene, we realize Rhaenyra is not feeling the fact that, one, her father married her best friend, and now her best friend has become a stepmother. That's a weird dynamic for anybody to be in, especially when you're 14. Well, you were 14 at the time. That's a lot. So then Alicent approaches and she tells the guy that's playing the instrument and singing, his name's Samwell. She said, Samwell, you can go now. And she tells Rhaenyra that they're gathering to do the hunt. And she said, Rhaenyra's like, I'm fine here. I don't want to go to the hunt. And she tells Samwell to continue to sing. She said, did I ask you to stop singing? Keep singing. So he starts to get ready to sing. And Alicent said, I'm your queen. And your queen commands you to leave at once. And because she is the queen, technically, he gets up and leaves. So that's when Rhaenyra looks at Alicent and it was like, no, Alicent first says, the king wants us all to do this as a family all together or whatever. And then Rhaenyra says, did the king command my presence? And that's what Alicent says, yes, he did. But and Rhaenyra interrupts her and said, well, you should have said that from the beginning, that he commanded me to come. And then Rhaenyra said, Alicent says, but it shouldn't have to be like this. Like, Rhaenyra is annoyed. She didn't care that her father had to. I don't think it hurt a little bit that her father was commanded to get married so soon after her mother and her brother's death. But the fact that he married her best friend, that's a whole nother. That's a whole nother. That's a whole nother issue. And you can see them two going back and forth, wielding, like trying to see who's the most powerful in the situation with this exchange that they were having. And also, I didn't mention, but Alicent is pregnant with another baby. We don't know how far along she is, but her belly's definitely out there. She's definitely showing. So by this time, she's about 16 years old, maybe between 16 and 17, and she's pregnant with baby number 2. So they're in the wagon. Some maidens, Alicent, Lord Varys, King Viserys, and Princess Rhaenyra. They hit some bumps, and Alicent is visibly shaken and uncomfortable. It prompts Rhaenyra to ask her why exactly is she going on the hunt with them in her condition. She says that the maester, which is like the doctor, told her the nature being out in the nature would do her some good or whatever. So I'm guessing Alicent is like almost at the end. Maybe she's in the last few weeks of her pregnancy. So that's when her father looks at her. So as I was saying, Viserys looks at Rhaenyra and says, when you have your own babies pretty soon, you don't know what it's like, basically. And she is so loud, it annoys me. He says to her, you'll make me a grandsire. So it's not a grandfather, it's grandsire. Back then is the term. And that conversation prompts Rhaenyra to admit to her father that she feels like, Aegon has people. He has you, Alicent, and all the other people. Me, personally, I don't have anybody. Because he basically was letting her know that she's been neglecting her duties and the things that he's been telling her. And he wouldn't have to keep reminding her of things if she would do as she's been commanded or told, or basically. But she said she don't have anybody, so that's another layer on top of the marriage, is the fact that Rhaenyra feels like with her mother gone, she doesn't have anyone. She don't have her best friend no more. She lost her best friend to her father via marriage. So she doesn't have a confidant, I'm guessing right now. So they arrive to their destination. It looks like a place. They announce baby Aegon that he's the second of his name, and this is his second naming day. They get out of the wagon and they go inside this place. It's basically like a gathering, a party. We see Viserys standing and just watching Rhaenyra move about the room. But the camera also pans to this man that's also watching Rhaenyra move about the room. Alicent is already sitting with some women who are gossiping about some different things that's been happening. And we see that the main person that's talking's name is Keira. Did they say Keira or did they say Sierra? Lannister. Remember the Lannisters? Jaime Lannister and his terrible sister Cersei Lannister. Remember them? The twins who like to have sex and make babies with each other. But anyway, they're talking about Lord Swan had a ship that was going through. The Sandstones got a hold of the ship and kidnapped somebody named Lady Joanna. And the rumor is, because they're gossiping at this point, but the rumor is that she's going to be sold to a pillow house in the free cities. And I'm guessing pillow house means house, um, not a hostel, but like a brothel type of place. That's what I'm guessing a pillow house is. In this moment, we see this, like I said, we see this man that's watching Rhaenyra move about the room, and he looks familiar. I'm like, did I see him playing something else before? He has like reddish orange hair. He looks familiar though, but they never, at this point, they haven't said his name or introduced him. He's just, as Viserys looks on and look at Rhaenyra, this man also looks on and look at Rhaenyra. So Rhaenyra is moving about. Alicent is sitting with the women gossiping. And then we see this guy. They introduce him. They say his name is Larys Strong. He's the youngest son of the lawyer for the area, the main lawyer for the area. He said he wasn't built or born for hunting because he has something wrong with his foot. He has a steel boot on his foot. And he's walking with a cane. He's limping. So he asks, can he have a seat with him? They say yes. He sits. So the gossiping women, the lady's name is Carol Lannister. As Rhaenyra approaches, they decide to ask Rhaenyra her opinion on the matters at hand as far as what's going on in the Stepstones. They inform her that they feel like her Uncle Daemon has dragged... Sorry about that, like I was saying. The gossiping women tell Rhaenyra they feel like Daemon dragged them into this mess, him and the sea snake, which is Corlys. And nothing's been accomplished. Like, what did she think? And she was like, well, I haven't spoken to my Uncle Daemon in years. And they're saying, well, we are at war. She said, no, we're not. And she was like, they were like, and your father needs to do what he needs to do to put an end to it. And Rhaenyra is like she didn't realize that they were at war. They used to tell her, your father just does not want to admit it. It's basically burying his head in the sand like it's not going on. But it's going on. And so I like Rhaenyra. She's like, well, Lady Redwyn. I think the lady's name is Redwyn. She said, Lady Redwyn, what are you doing to assist in this matter besides stuffing your face with cake? Also, please note, in the midst of this conversation, they throw shade at the fact that Viserys made Rhaenyra the heir instead of Daemon, and basically like that's the issue. And Alicent comes to her defense and says that, Rhaenyra was more suited for the role, perhaps. And, Rhaenyra has like a smirk on her face as Alicent is saying that. Alicent is really doing her best to try to bridge the gap and mend their relationship and get them back on the path that they were on before she married King Viserys. Well, what have we here? Young Rhaenyra finds herself walking outside. She walks past the man who was watching her when she first walked into the place. The place that they're at is called, I think it's called Huntwood or Hintwood. And this is where they're gonna go do the hunting and all that kind of stuff. So this person approaches her and introduces himself. His name is Jason Lannister. And when she turns and looks at him, she realizes he's the twin of Tywin Lannister. And Tywin works for her father. He's one of the men on the council. This guy tells her that Huntwood, or whatever this place is called, is good for hunting. But it's not better than Casterly Rock, which is near where he lives. He asks her, has she been there? She said once as a child. He asks, was her second name and day as grand as Aegon's second naming day. She said she doesn't remember hers, and she's sure that when Egg grows up, he won't remember his either. He says that, the wall at Casterly Rock or wherever he lives is really, really high, really tall. He said you can see the sunset sea from there if you stand on there. And he doesn't have a dragon pit, but he has the means to build one. And when she looks at him and say, why would you need to build a dragon pit? He said, so I can raise dragons. If my queen asks, or my lady wife, so basically he's putting his bid in the air now that he's interested in her to marry her. And with that, she hands him Blake his goblet of wine, because she's had enough of the conversation. Like, I think she's turned off, like, ew. She gives it back to him, and he throws the wine out. That was a nice little sneaky way of shooting your shot, wouldn't you say? Oh, it's not that she was turned off. It's that she realizes that her father set that up because he's been fielding and shielding marriage proposals. He's tried to have conversations with her about getting married, and she's ignored or like won't entertain the conversation. So she goes to her father and let him know that Jason tried to propose to her, basically. She said she does not wish to get married. And he said, even me, I'm not above the duty and the commands of this life. So basically, it's her duty to get married and start to bear children. But she's not interested in him. I think the only person she's kind of like interested in is Sir Criston Cole. And for whatever reason, they haven't courted or did anything with each other up to this point. But her and her father start to get loud and belligerent and start to have a shouting match. And she says she's not even interested in Jason Lannister because he's very arrogant. It's self-righteous. But back in that day, they didn't say self-righteous. They said self-serious. So as they're getting louder, Otto comes in and interrupts the argument to let them know that there's been sighting of something called a White Hart, H-A-R-T. And the place is called Kingswood, not Huntwood. It's called Kingswood, where they're going to do this hunt for Aegon's second naming day. Rhaenyra marches off, goes back outside again, and we see Sir Criston Cole out there. Now let's see what's going to happen, what kind of conversation they're going to have, if any. In her madness, Princess rides off on this pretty white horse. Criston Cole sees her, and he gets on the horse and he follows her. He's yelling after her to wait. He catches up to her and they stop at the edge of a lake. He asks her what happened back there, trying to figure out why she rode off like that. And she lets him know, like, have you ever been felt betrayed by somebody? And she goes on to say, like, she feels betrayed by her dad. Like, did he only name me heir to the throne so that I can hurry up and get married and marry somebody and raise their station in life? Because she basically lets him know that her father is like selling her off like property to the Lannisters, and she doesn't want to be named heir to the throne just to be married to Jason Lannister to raise the station of the Lannisters and their people from Casterly Rock. And so she asks, Criston about his upbringing. And he said, he was a commoner and he could have married a commoner girl if he wanted to. But he joined, he decided to forgo that, become a knight and join the army. And then she said, how nice to be able to have choices in your own life and having to say in your own life what you're going to do with your own life. And he tells her, it's a lot of people that envy you and wish that they were where you are. She said, and that's because they don't know what it's like to be in this position and to live this life. And I totally get it. I don't, I couldn't even fathom now being in control of my own life. She said, I'm in this, I have this position, but I'm toothless. I can't do anything. And he's like, well, I wouldn't say you were that toothless because you're the one who wrote my name in the book of whatever, and you got me to be in the King's Guard, and now it was you who did that, and now me, I'm the only Cole in my family to ever get to this station, like to have this standing in life. So you did something, like you helped me, basically, is what he's saying. And he looks at her and he's like, we need to get ready to get back there. She was like, it's such a nice day. Why don't we just go ride off through Kingswood by ourselves? So they off the horses and they walking through. And I'm guessing just gonna talk. It seems like he's going to be a good friend to her, and I'm thinking that there's going to be a love story between the two of them. I'm thinking. So we find out that the white heart that they're hunting, it's a symbol of royalty. So if they were to capture this would make Aegon's second naming day even more special. And Otto make sure is to let the king know that and get him to realize, maybe the gods put this together so that you can hunt a white hart and as a sign of royalty, like basically, so that you can name Aegon the heir to the throne and marry off Rhaenyra so that Aegon can be the next king in line. So as King Viserys is sitting on the throne in Kingswood having a drink, everyone is eating. Jason Lannister approaches with this pretty spear. He offers it to King Viserys and tells him that this is a gift he had forged in gold himself for Prince Aegon. And he also wants to let the king know that he can offer strength um, to Viserys, Kingswood, and Rhaenyra if, he's allowed to take Rhaenyra as his wife. And, you know, he's sure that his strength would more than make up for her loss of station in life, because in his mind and in so many others' mind, now that Aegon is here, King is going to make Aegon heir to the throne, and Rhaenyra is just going to go and do whatever. And the king is flabbergasted, and I'm guessing he's now realizing that what Rhaenyra said is true. This man is self-righteous and arrogant, because he says, well, who told you, or what gives you the impression that I'm going to take heir to the throne away from Rhaenyra and give it to Aegon? And Jason goes on to say, well, myself and others just assumed that now that you have a prince, now that you have a son, you can name him heir. Again, with the daggone sexist and the sexism. Viserys had to let him know, listen, y'all will do well to basically mind your business and not worry about my daughter's station in life. Basically, I knew what I was doing. I didn't make her heir to the throne on a whim. So I'm not changing my mind just because I had a son. I'm not changing it. She's heir to the throne. And Jason apologizes. Once again, saying, the gift is for your son. And maybe you can use this. This would be the spear you use to kill the White Hart for Aegon. When y'all go out there and hunt or whatever, and he walks off. But that was a nice little way for the king to put Jason and all the other men who assumed in their place. Like, I didn't make my daughter the heir to the throne just because I had just lost my wife. And she was all the only choice I felt like I had. I did it for a reason. But we also can see the king is tired. And like I said, it's been 3 years now, basically. And we know he has cancer or whatever's going on with his body. We see he's wearing gloves now, too. Because, and I think the end of the first episode or the second, when he sat in the chair, you could see blood coming down his fingers from that wound on his back. Just as the king is getting a moment of peace and having a drink, here come Otto on his best bullshit. I can't believe he just said what the fuck he just said. The king asks Otto his thoughts about Jason asking for Rhaenyra's hand in marriage. And Otto was like, he fine. And the king is like, man, his pride got pride. Like, he's seeing what Rhaenyra sees in Jason Lannister, right? Then Otto says, well, you are her father and you can command her. You're her father and you're the king. You can command her to get married to whomever you would like for her to get married to. And she's supposed to just do it because you're the king. But the king is like, I don't want to command her to get married. I want her to be in a marriage where she would be happy. I want her to find happiness. I don't want her to get married just out of duty and command. So Otto says, well, there's another person I have in mind that you can betroth her to. And you don't even have to go as far as Casterly Rock to find somebody. It's somebody in your own backyard. And the king is looking like, who? And I'm sitting here looking perplexed like, well, who you have in mind, Hightower? Who you have in mind, Otto? This motherfucker had the audacity to part his thin fucking liver lips and breathed the name Prince Aegon. Saying that's going to stop the whispers and the talk and the marriage proposals. You want this man to betroth his firstborn to his secondborn? Marry her to her own baby brother? What the fuck is wrong with you? So we've been all over this living room getting this daggone recap of House of Dragons done, haven't we? I'm back. So this next scene, after Viserys fuss at Otto about politicking, he just trying to enjoy. He didn't come there for politics. He came there to hunt and enjoy Aegon's second naming day. And here you are politicking and having the audacity to ask me to betroth my daughter to my newborn, well, basically baby son. Like, what the hell? And he lets not, I don't know. That's gonna be a no to that suggestion. And basically, like, get out of my face with this. So he's sitting there. We see Alicent, she keeps an eye on King Viserys, but you can see he's obviously drunk at this point. He's visibly drunk. So another one of his advisors, this guy's name is, I think his name is Lionel Strong. He's the one who suggested that King Viserys marry his younger cousin, which is Corlys's daughter, with Rhaenys. He tells the king that he has a suggestion. And the king's like, what? You want me to marry her off? You want me to marry Rhaenyra off to one of your sons? He said, actually, no. I feel like you should marry her off to Sir Laenor, Corlys's son. And they are the wealthiest family in the area. Corlys and his family, they're the wealthiest ones in the area. The son is away with his father and Daemon fighting the Stepstones. But he was saying that we can, send word that if he survives Stepstone, we can pray that he survives this whole war at the Stepstone with the Crab King, and he can come back and he can marry Rhaenyra. So that would be Rhaenyra again marrying her cousin. It's just disgusting if you ask me. But he goes on to say, like, yeah, if you decide to do this, maybe this can go a long way to smooth over the fact that Corlys felt slighted that you didn't want to marry his daughter and you married Alicent instead or whatever. And he, it's just what a time they was living in. And it's so funny to hear the name the Lannisters and hear Casterly Rock and all those things that we became familiar with on the regular Game of Thrones. Oh, you know what? Let me mention this real quick. I don't think I even mentioned in the the videos for episodes 1 and 2. And after the ceremony where Viserys named Rhaenyra the heir to the throne, they went down to where the I would say the monuments are of their ancestors and stuff, and he gave her something, and he told her about a dream. This is a secret that only the kings know. So he basically tells her, there's this dream that he has, and it's already said that there's this king that's gonna come, and the winter is gonna come, and the king that comes with winter is, it's gonna be an attack, and you gonna have to lead the charge, and the time is quickly approaching. I said, wow, so this is 200 years before we get the actual Game of Thrones series with Daenerys and Jon Snow and all of those people, and the Night King, as we come to know him. That didn't even happen for another 200 years, but it's mentioned to her in a conversation about that war that they're gonna have to fight with the Night King when winter comes. So Rhaenyra and Kristen are still sitting in the thicket of the forest, just chilling. He continues to urge her to head back to camp where her father and the rest of the people are, because he's sure that her father's worried about her, which he is. I meant to mention that Linus did let him know that they know for sure that Rhaenyra is still out in the woods with Kristen Cole, and she's protected, so she should be fine. But they're gonna find them. So Rhaenyra looks at Kristen and said, "Do you think people would respect me as their queen?" And he says, they have no choice but to respect you as their queen. Like, if you are their queen, they're just gonna have to respect it regardless. And because she's still questioning and wondering. Next thing you know, he hears a noise. The horses start to neigh and make noises, which lets him know somebody or something is approaching. He pulls his sword out, walks out away from Rhaenyra in the fire that they made, and that's when the warthog comes, like something comes through the bush and knocks him off his feet and goes over and attacks Rhaenyra. she's trying to fight it off, and next thing you know, the boy is stabbed by Sarah Cole, Kristen Cole, and she says thanks. She has a little blood splattered, down her face like this. But before she can get up all the way, the daggone warthog gets up and goes to attack her again. In this moment, she takes out her knife, her dagger, and she's stabbing it. I think she got a little bloodthirsty. And then we pan to a scene with her father, King Viserys. He's out looking at a fire that they've made. Alicent comes out and he explains to her why he named Rhaenyra heir to the throne. He did it out of love and delight. So he says, he did it because long ago when she was a child, he said long ago, was it when she was a child or when he was a child? When she was small. Or before she was born. I forget what he said, but basically he had a dream. He had a dream that he said he saw the dream. It's clear as he see the fires burning, and it's and this fire right here. He said he saw it as clear as he see those flames and the fire in front of their face. In the dream, he had a child that had a crown, and they were a dragon rider. And they wore the crown or whatever. And because of that dream, him holding steadfast to that dream, he lost his wife in pursuit of that dream, because the dream was it was a male child that wore the crown. And when his wife died, he didn't believe that he would get married and have another child. So, as his rightful heir, he named Rhaenyra the queen, or heir to the throne. But now, he's questioning himself and if he made the right choice. Not to no fault of her, but it's the whole thing. Everybody on his head and on his neck about making Aegon the heir to the throne now, because he's a male child, and that's how things are supposed to go. And their society is supposed to go to a male, not a female, basically. So he's questioning his decision now, and how it would affect Rhaenyra if he decided to change his mind and make Aegon the heir to the throne. Basically, that's what it seems like to me. And he tells Alice, like, he never thought that he would marry her and have a son. He thought once his wife died, that was it. And he did what he was supposed to do by naming his child that he had the heir to the throne, basically. So Lord Viserys concludes his conversation with Alicent once he hears horns blaring, signaling that they've caught the hart. And hart is the archaic word for deer, a male deer. We see daylight is here because it was night when he was talking to Alicent. Daylight is here, and they go to an opening in the woods, and they have the deer tied on all four legs, with the dogs and the hounds barking at it. And the deer, of course, is wailing because it's caught. And this whole time, remember, they kept saying they thought it was a white one, and the white one is a symbol for royalty. So Jason Lannister gives the king the spear he made and said, "Here for the kill." And this heart or deer is not white, it's red. It takes the king 2 tries to actually kill the deer and get the deer to fall. And he says, it's not a white one, but it's a nice sized one nevertheless. And it's a symbol of it's even though it's red, it's not a symbol of royalty anymore, but it's just a symbol of the king doing, what they're supposed to do back then with the hunt and actually getting a really big one. We go from that to seeing Rhaenyra at like a mountaintop or a mountain peak looking down over all of Kingswood and the land. We see all the blood in her hair all around her neck. So obviously they have not gone back to camp as Sir Criston was urging her to do. We hear a noise in the background. She turns her head and there lies the white hart or the deer. Sir Criston was about to go and get it. And she said, "No, let it go." The heart makes a noise and turns and runs off. And then we see them dragging the warthog. Somebody's dragging the warthog into the camp at this point. Alright guys, so it was definitely Rhaenyra on her horse, on her white horse, dragging that warthog behind her as she entered the camp. And everybody is looking on, even Jason Lannister is looking. And he kind of like got a look of disgust at this point, but it's Rhaenyra. So fast forward, we're back at the castle. And Queen Alicent is, sitting in the room with the baby and the maidens. The maidens take Prince Aegon and says that, they're going to give Alicent some relief from Prince Aegon. Now enters Alicent's father, Otto. He comes there to urge her to talk to her husband to make Prince Aegon the heir to the throne. Because the throne is supposed to go to the firstborn son, according to Otto Hightower, her father. And he says, surely he's your husband, and you can bend his ear and convince him to, name Aegon as the heir to the throne. She's like, she don't think he'll listen to her or whatever, but she listens to her father again. And we see her approach her husband as he's sitting in their chambers. And she talks to him about Rhaenyra. About telling her, Rhaenyra didn't take a liking to Jason Lannister. And I think the king was thinking that Rhaenyra just doesn't want to get married at all. And Alicent informed him she will, but she has to believe it was her choice, not because you told her to do it. She broaches the subject of Aegon becoming the heir to the throne, and he had told her that he did it to protect the throne from Daemon. Number one, he didn't want Daemon to become heir. He wanted it to go to somebody, and he, like I said, didn't believe he was going to get remarried. So he gave it to his daughter out of love. He gave he gave her heir to the throne or whatever. And we see a letter sitting there. It's a letter from Valerian. Valerian is Corlys's brother. He's actually gone to fight with Corlys and Daemon And she advises the king that he should send aid. Well, she first asks, can she read the letter? Because she already heard from the gossips, Lady Redwing and Kara Lannister, that they are losing. And she said, are you going to provide aid to them? And he said, why would I do that? Why would I help them when they didn't listen, heed my command, and went on to go fight anyway? And now they're losing, and they're losing all these men. And she said, well, what good would it benefit the realm if your brother and the sea snake and his brother all die at the hands of the crab feeder? Which makes sense. So she reads the letter, and after she's read the letter of Valerian asking for help with the crab feeder, that's when she gives him that little nugget. Like, what would you rather happen with the realm? Like, so then we see him have a conversation with Rhaenyra. He's sitting at the table. Rhaenyra comes and sits down. She asks him, basically, why did he choose her to be heir to the throne if he just want to marry her off and get rid of her? Because she looks at it like, you just want to marry me off to somebody else so that you can name Aegon the heir, because there's no need for me to be heir to the throne anymore now that you have your boy. And everybody's whistling about and talking about the fact that you got your firstborn son. And the crazy thing is, even with Otto saying this is the firstborn son, it's not the firstborn son. It's the firstborn son that survived. Because remember, Balin was born, but he passed with his mom. You know? I don't like that they just keep saying the firstborn son, dismissing the fact that Balin was actually born, you know? So basically, the king lets Rhaenyra know that, yes, you have your brother, but I don't seek to replace you. But you do have to take a husband. You have to get married. It's our duty. You have to get married. You have to multiply to keep the throne going, you know? Because Aegon is the first boy in 15 years. So, he tells her he wants her to be happy, so she needs to do what she need to do to seek out a husband and get married and start having kids. You are marrying age now. And she gets this smile on her face because he's told her it's her choice who her husband should be. So he's really taking Alicent's advice, which is great. Because remember, she told him Rhaenyra has to feel like she has a say in who she marries. And you need to provide aid to your brother and Sea Snake so that they can vanquish the crab feeders. Okay, y'all. So we see Joffrey Valerian, which is Corlys's brother, and their men all by the sea having a conversation. Joffrey's idea is that to get the crab feeder, the king of the crab feeders, Prince Drahar, to get him to come out of the cave, we need some bait. We need somebody to go down there and draw him out so we can bring the dragon in and kill them and be rid of him. Laenor asks his uncle Joffrey, so who do you feel like would be good bait? Joffrey's like, we're gonna use Daemon as bait. Laenor and Corlys, which is Laenor's father, they're like, no. He's been the one going down there fighting and trying to help us win this, and you want to use him? You want to send him to his death by sending him down there by himself to the crab feeder, the crab prince? Like, And Joffrey is like, oh yeah. Laenor is like, no, we can't do that. And them 3 years have done Laenor good. He's gotten taller. He got the pretty blonde locks like his daddy. Next thing you know, we see a dragon coming in, and it's Daemon coming back from wherever he's coming from. He gets off the horse. Gets off the dragon, walks up to them, and as he approaches, they're talking. And next thing you know, they're still talking about the Crab Prince. Next thing you know, um, the servant that Viserys has sent there with the message that he's going to send them some ships and aid has arrived. He said, here's a message from, King Viserys, king of the seven, he said, king of the realm and keeper of the realm, king of the seven kingdoms and all that stuff. You know how they say first of his name, all that. He gives the scroll to Daemon. Daemon opens the scroll and reads it. And it says, I'm sending 10 ships to aid your efforts. And although we've been estranged, brother, I'm praying to the gods to bring you home safe and alive, basically. And so Daemon takes the letter, read it. Once he reads it, he takes his helmet off and beat the hell out of the messenger. And I'm like, what was the point in that? So then we see him get off this ship by himself. He's over there at the stepstones. He's walking. We see all these skeletons and these dead men being eaten up by the crabs. He takes a piece of white fabric off of something, ties it to a stick or whatever, and plants it, waves it around first and plants it. I said, oh my God. So really, I'm thinking, Daemon, you really gonna concede you waving the white flag? Your brother just said he sent that aid. And you gonna wave the white flag just because you mad at your brother that he didn't make you the hand of the king? You know? Next thing I know, this action draws the Crab Prince out. You see his men lining the perimeter with their bow and arrows. And then you see some men stand at the entrance to one of the caves. He takes his sword out. Daemon takes his sword out, gets on the knee, and bows as if he's surrendering. He has his head bowed. The Crab Prince never speaks. He does like this as a signal to the men to come from the cave and go approach Daemon. They approach Daemon, and just as they're getting up on him, Daemon jumps up, starts cutting them down. I said, oh, that was a beautiful setup for this battle scene. So, obviously, we did not see Joffrey tell Daemon the plan to use him as bait. But that's what they did. They used Daemon as bait. Daemon is running fast as hell. They shooting all kinds of arrows at him, and he chopping all the guys down. We see the Crab Prince nod to another group of men inside the cave, telling them to come out and fight Daemon. Daemon ends up in kind of like shielded by a crate that would look like probably like a trap because there's no opening at the back, but it still got holes big enough for some of the bow and arrows to come through. He gets stabbed in the leg, again here in chest and shoulder by some bow and arrows. He's taken down. He falls. And then we hear noise. I said, oh shit, here comes a dragon. Here come the cavalry. They coming to give Damon back up. Because Damon looks up and he sees the crab prince standing there. But when that dragon come and start blowing that damn fire, Damon gets a renewed sense of strength, and he pulls the bow and arrow, the arrow out of his leg, pulls one of the ones that's like in his chest and in his side out, and he gets up and he starts chopping more of them guys down. They got the dragon. Laenor is flying the dragon, and then Joffrey and Corlys and the rest of the cavalry, they are on foot, fighting, battling, going through them. What a beautiful scene. We see the crab prince retreat back into the damn cave like, I'm getting away. Damon fights through those people and makes his way into the cave. We see Laenor flying on the dragon, still burning people up. We see his father Corlys and his uncle Joffrey once again chopping people down, fighting and everything. Next thing you know, we see Damon walking and dragging something behind him, but he's walking towards the exit from the cave. He comes out dragging this, and then the camera pans to it. Because I was thinking, why didn't they show us what he actually did inside the cave? And we see it's supposedly the crab prince. It's right. It's supposedly him. It looks like it's his face, but the face not all red and looking leopard, like a leper, the way it was at first, right? He drags it, pulls it out near some water, and puts his knife down to signal that he's killed. And it's like the upper torso of the crab prince. I'm thinking we didn't see him kill him because he didn't kill him. I'm thinking that was somebody else, and I think that Damon made a deal with that fucking crab prince. That's what I think. Because when that happens, the episode goes off. And then we get to see what's coming up in the next episode. And we see, once again, Viserys is fussing at Rhaenyra, saying she said something about something being a headache to him, his political headache. He tells her she's his political headache. Damon comes back. Damon comes back. It looks like his hair is shorter and everything, and it's looking like he want to claim victory. He's the reason, so therefore he should be named heir to the throne now, or even hand of the king or something. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be a whole lot of shit in a second. And that concludes episode 3, second of his name, of House of the Dragon. I hope y'all enjoyed this long review. This one clip right here is 9 minutes and 46 seconds and counting right now. But I hope y'all enjoyed this. Please don't forget to click that like and subscribe button on your way in or on your way out. Get in the comment section and tell me what your thoughts are of how things are going to go for this show or for the next episode. What do you think is going to happen? How long you been a fan of this series? I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.